Right. So, if you do not have any questions, let me quickly move on to. Yes, I see a new message. So, unmute access is not given. Let me see. Allow participants to unmute themselves. Right. I've given the access. My apologies for that. Sir, Kanchan has a question, sir. Is it any difference in masters in pharmacy in QA and this course? So basically, this course will cover the content of master's course, specifically which is focused on quality assurance. So we'll be covering all the aspects into it. So basically, whatever topics I'll be talking will be in your courses. We'll be talking about topics apart from that also. For example, your quality by design is something that we do not see in your university courses. Risk assessment and risk management, that is what you don't see in today's courses. So those things also will be covering in this session apart from your university course. But if you have any special requests for any topics, you can please let us know, and I will redesign the course such that those courses are also accommodated. Right. If you have any other questions, please use the chat session. I have given access to unmute yourself and ask questions. Quickly, 1 or 2 minutes more. Kanchan, I hope I have answered your question. So, practicals, is we covering any practical? So, uh, no, we won't be covering practicals in this course. This is a theoretical course since it is online. And if you have any practicals requirement, yes, we can address that by having some practical training sessions. Satish, would you like to speak something in this regard about practicals for this course? Okay, so what I can confirm is that this is a theoretical course. With respect to quality assurance, we do not have any practicals, right? Uh, but still, if you have any question, practicals, we can cover them separately. That I can assure you. Right. So let us quickly move on to the next half of the session. I will have some more time for asking questions at the end of the session. Let me quickly cover the next one also. Okay, so now and no one can unmute themselves. Let me quickly share my second slide with you. Mm, all right. So I hope you can see the slide about pharmaceutical production management. If you can, please give a thumbs up. I will know that you can see it. Anyone, if you can see the second slide about pharmaceutical production management, please give a thumbs up. Participants. I'll once again share. Right, you can see. Okay. Right. So let me deep dive into another topic which we usually take, which is in conjunction with the QA. So, pharmaceutical production management. So, who is this course for? So, this is a course for uh, all the students community, that is the graduates and the postgraduates, which are pursuing their bachelor's or master's in the field of pharmacy. If you are postgraduate, and if you want if you are having your majors or your main subject is formulation or quality or analytical, probably this is one of an important topic that you should know. Apart from that, professionals or freshers, if you are having 1 or 2 years of experience and you want to know advanced topics about how the production happens in a pharmaceutical industry, how the upper management, mid management thinks about how to produce, which tablets to produce, what is the quantity, what batch size has to be taken. This course is for them. And it is also for other professionals who wish to change their career path. Probably you are working in some other department or some different industry, and you wish to move into the pharmaceutical industry with respect to production, then this course is for you. So this course is for addresses all the three participants: the students, the freshers, and people who want to change their field and move into this field. So, pharmaceutical production management, let us understand what it is. So, before that, let us understand what is production, how the process of production happens. So, in production, we definitely give some inputs because we need an output, right? So, raw materials is something, an input that we give in the production, and we get the finished product, right? So, raw materials can be your active pharmaceutical ingredients, API, it can be your excipients, and it can be your packing material, right? And your finished goods can be your tablets, capsules, it can be oral solids, it can be steriles, it can be any of the finished goods. So we need to give in an inputs to get an output, right? And what happens in between is the processing of the input material to get a output. But the pharmaceutical production management process is not as simple as it seems. There are many factors. For example, the production activity is one of the important factor that affects the pharmaceutical production management. Right? What are the activities the production does, and the series of which? For example, team has to first receive the raw material, they have to test it, they have to see that if it fits their specification, and then they have to withdraw certain quantity and then only go for production. Directly they cannot take the material, make the finished goods, and then check if for its quality or how it comes out, right? So there is a series of activity that is called the production activity, which affects the way the process moves. So the production activity comprises of planning things, organizing, and people who work in that team directing them. See, this is your job. Your job is to sample the material, to check the material. So giving them direction and controlling. From time to time, you have to monitor. Right. So the production activity consists of these four basic steps of planning, organization, directing, and controlling, right? But pharmaceutical production management is not just about these activities, but about taking decisions during the process. So decisions are affected by four attributes, that is the quality of the input such that you get a quality output, the quantity that you require, the batch size you need to take, the cost that we have to incur, and the human resources that have to be employed. So these together comprises the definition of pharmaceutical production management. So, production in pharmaceutical company consists of creating and maintaining of clearly defined organization that makes effective and coordinate use of personnel, land, buildings, equipments, right? And this also includes management of inventory. And when you are able to do all these things, then only there is a proper management of the pharmaceutical product. So pharmaceutical production management, when done in a pharmaceutical company, is called pharmaceutical management, right? So why is this important? So the pharmaceutical industry is a major global economic force. So during the pandemic, you have seen the vaccine politics that takes place, right? So we have seen that many countries use their political power such that they get early approvals, late approvals, or banning of few vaccines during the pandemic time. So the economy is dependent upon the pharmaceutical supply of drugs, right? So the global economy is one of the major factor that pharmaceutical industry contributes to, and with increasing reliance on two things, that is safety and efficacy, production has taken leaps and bounds, and we have seen that advanced instruments have come up. Earlier we used to manually fill capsules. You might be wondering, a capsule is having a shell and a body, right? So a shell and a cap is there in the entire capsule. So earlier we used to fill it manually in a capsule filling machine, right? So all the bodies used to be arranged, and later powder used to be sprayed over it, and one person used to fill everything using a spatula, and then we used to cap it. But now we have seen that there are many equipments that have come into the production which does it with more precision, more accuracy, and faster way. So there is technological advance into production, right? And how the environment has changed, right? So we can see that the pollution control board, the water and the electricity supply board, they are enforcing strict regulations. This is because the pharmaceutical production unit pollutes the nearby area if not properly checked. That's why there are environmental challenges in not just setting up a production plant but also managing it. So plan, design, construction, validation, and operation of this manufacturing facility is really very complex, right? The facility professionals must master are very much changing. That is their dynamic, right? Like the regulatory agencies are demanding many things, the technology is changing, right? So the pharmaceutical industry faces a lot of different forces, let it may be economic and or political, right? And still they have to produce that goods which are having quality, safety, and at a very low cost. So the degree of specialization is really, really to the maximum level in the pharmaceutical manage industry, and hence the production unit has to be managed, right? So that is the importance of pharmaceutical production management, right? So what is the objective of pharmaceutical production management, right? So we have seen in a first slide that there is input and there is an output. So the first objective is to produce the goods in the right quality and right quantity, most importantly to make them in correct time and with minimal cost, right? So you can produce goods of very good quality, right? You can make huge batches, but if you're not making it in time, then you cannot sell those products, right? You can see that after pandemic, most of the vaccine vials were just simply left, and they have a shelf life of just 3 months. So many companies had to actually discard it because they were not able to produce those vaccines when the corona was at its highest, right? Another important factor is cost. You have to keep the cost lowest. In India, the cost is controlled by the regulatory agency, by CDSCO, by the Drug Controller General of India, right? So there is a formula for calculating this cost, so this has to be met, right? So that is the first objective of production management. And next is to improve the efficacy of the product, right? So as I said, production is a continuous process and it has to be improved over a period of time, and if you keep on increasing the efficiency, you will get a lot of profit, right? So these are the two objectives of the production management, right? So production management refers to the management principles to the production of pharmaceutical drugs into a pharmaceutical factory, right? So quality must be built into the product and cannot be inspected by. So this is a proverb that is usually said, that is, quality should be present in the core, and you can, even though you can always inspect it, but not at all times at all places. So if you build quality right from first step, then we'll see that the final product that is coming out will be of quality and meet all the specifications. So that is the objective of the production management course. So quickly let us move on and see what are the contents of today's course. So this course will be basically dealing about the fundamental topics of production that you should know, right? If you are a bachelor's or a master's or early professional or an unrelated person, I will be teaching in brief the fundamentals, right? So introduction to drug discovery and development is something that I'll be teaching, right? The R&D process. So the entire process of this drug management, starting from scanning for molecules to testing to preclinical testing to clinical testing to launching, then post market surveillance to closing to dropping the production. This entire life cycle I'll be talking about. And in that R&D process, the research and development process forms a major step. So how the entire research and development process happens, that also will be teaching in detail in this chapter, right? So this will form as the basis. So if you are a person who does not know it, or you are not from this field, it will be much clearer, much simpler for you to understand why this management of pharmaceutical production has to be done, what are the steps, and where you can manage it, right? We'll be talking about the investigational new drug application, because these forms the basis for filing with a regulatory agency. Apart from that, the abbreviated new drug in application, right? So generic versus novel, right? So we'll be also talking in depth more about it, that is the exploratory investigational new drug application and traditional investigation new drug application. So you might have not heard of these concepts, but it is practiced into the industry. Every time you cannot go and simply file an investigation new drug application. There are categories into it which will save you some cost, some time, right? Always you cannot go with the traditional approach. They are provisions with respect to the IND where you can use the option of exploratory, right? So we'll be touching also the basic concepts of understanding the generic drug. We'll understand what is drug, what is generic market, what are the important drivers and forces into a generic industry, why it is important, because India is a generic drug industry uh, workforce. So we are the topmost generic drug player in the world, even surpassing China, right? So we are the third largest producer in terms of quantity for generic drugs, right? We are the biggest market. So generic industry is something what is present, it was past, and it will be future, right? So in that also we have some authorized generics, right? There are again subtypes into that generics. So authorized generics, the concept of that will be reading, will be understanding, and how it is different from normal generics. Apart from that, this is with respect to the basics of the pharma industry. But what about the basics of production management? So we will be understanding what is production function, what is operations, how day-to-day operations in a pharmaceutical industry takes place, right? What is the sequence, how things are designed uh, such that there is smooth functioning, right? What are the processes, and to run the processes, what are the systems that are incorporated, what are the basic concepts that are incorporated such that the processes are smoothly running, such that there is no collision, there is no ambiguity. So we'll be dealing with that. Then we'll be understanding productivity and efficacy, right? So we saw one of the objectives of pharmaceutical production is efficacy. So how we are going to increase efficacy? So productivity and efficacy is a important subchapter that we need to consider if we want a proper production management. Ergonomics, so ergonomics basically deals with the arrangement of materials in a such a way that the production can happen with minimum issues and highest quality, right? So if you see our kitchen, you will see that the fridge is somewhere near to the kitchen countertop platform, right? It is not there somewhere in the hall or at the entrance of the home, because if you need suppose one item from the fridge, like for example you are making uh, a paneer butter masala, right? So you need paneer for that, so paneer is in the refrigerator, right? So if the refrigerator is placed just beside the kitchen or inside kitchen or just beside the platform, the cook has to simply just open the fridge, has to not travel too much distance and simply take the paneer out, and there is less wastage of time. But if the same fridge is present somewhere at near the entrance, the cook has to travel from kitchen, cross the hall, reach the main entrance, and there from there he has to take the paneer. In the process of getting coming back to kitchen, the paneer might fall down or something might fall on it, right? So these are the importance of ergonomics. So in pharmaceutical industry, things are placed in chronological order such that the work can happen in a faster way. That is the importance of ergonomics, right? Then we spoke about the four pillars of production, and that is planning, controlling, managing, right? So in that, planning and controlling will be dealing in one of the chapters where how things are planned, how things are directed or routed, right? How we schedule production, because production unit works for 24 hours, right? So dispatching, so after making drugs you need to move it to stores, right? So after reaching stores it has to be checked, right? So if you're making suppose a batch of 10,000 tablets and packing into 100 cartons, so you need to check actually if there are 100 cartons, each carton is having all the units or not, right? Gantt charts, the concept of Gantt charts is something what I'll be introducing you to all team. So it is a form of maintaining the life cycle or the process of production, right? Then how do the industry takes the decision to either buy the raw materials from outside or directly making it in house? For example, suppose let's take an example of a much simpler industry, because production in pharma industry is something really complex, right? So suppose you are a laptop making industry, right? So it is not necessary that you will buy all the parts from outside, simply assemble it. Sometimes you have to make your own parts also, for example chips or the screen or the semiconductors. So sometimes it is cheaper to make it yourself rather than buying it from outside. Sometimes the companies doesn't have that expertise to make it in house, so they simply outsource it or buy. So pharma industry also always has a dilemma: should we make it in house or directly buy it outside and simply make the finished product? So how the company takes the decision, that will be understanding. So this is the application of all these aspects: Gantt chart and this decision making. Next, location and layout of the plant plays a really important role, right? So what are the factors that affect it? And all the pharmaceutical industries have a lease time. That is, they can set up their facility for a certain time only in that area, and later they have to either totally come out of that area and establish somewhere, or they have to forego few subsidiaries. So relocation of the plant is something really important. Most of the time you'll see that most of the companies relocate or shift their production unit, right? Or they stop their production in one country and start. So recently you are seeing the trend that most of the companies are due to some global political crisis are shifting their bases out of China into other countries like Southeast Asian countries and the Indian subcontinent. So, how to relocate? What are the decisions that they need to take into consideration? We'll be dealing in this chapter. So, types of layout. Many companies make drugs in batches, or sometimes it is continuous process. So, the workforce also works round the clock or in batches. So, the layout of the plant is really important, right? So the process and production of layout is something also really important. So we'll be dealing in that chapter. So after production, storing the material is something very important. So stores management is one important chapter we'll be dealing with respect to stores. So how the stores have to be located, how they have to be categorized, how the stock will be kept, how the stock will be dispensed. Else what will happen is material will get either spoiled or will either expire only in the stores unit. So this uh, chapter will talk about the store management. Next is inventory management. So we have seen that supply chain is an important factor in making today's drugs. So the concept of inventory management is taking a front seat after the pandemic. So we'll be talking about the concepts like first in first out FIFA, or other concepts, what is the importance of them, what are the different techniques in this. With that, we come to the end of the course. So these are the things we'll be talking in the pharmaceutical production management. And if you wish to go through many other topics, we can definitely consider in this session. With that, uh, let me first unmute you all. So unmute all, allow participants to unmute themselves. So I've given you rights to unmute yourself. So you can use the chat session and put in your questions, or you can unmute yourself and ask the questions, right? So we still have 2 minutes. If you have any questions, please use the unmute option. So the course content is not fixed. If you want me to, cover any particular topics, we can definitely include in any of the sessions. So if you have questions,
Can you please brief?
respect, yes, yes, please.
Can you please brief on CBD quality by design?
You want me to explain you further about quality by design?
Yes, sir. The tools
Right.
involved in CBD.
Right. So the quality by design is an important factor which nowadays is really important in the quality assurance. So earlier, let me just tell you first the importance of it in short. So earlier, the testing for the quality used to be done either in the starting, that is when you receive the raw material and packing material, RMPM, and or used to check in the finished goods, that is tablets used to take and used to test it if it is of quality. But the problem or the disadvantage with this is that even though many industries use quality inputs, sometimes the tablets or the finished goods that is coming out is of substandard quality. So there was always a question where the problem is happening. That's why the concept of in process testing has come into the industry. That is, we check the quality at each and every stage. Now, if you're testing at each and every stage, there are certain qualities or attributes you need to test. So the concept of critical quality attributes, CCA, is something that you need to define. That is, for example, if I'm getting a raw material, right? So what are the critical quality attributes I need to check? That is it of 100% purity? Are there any impurities in that, or uh, am I getting it in the latest batches? What is the expiry? So like this, the industry at each and every stage has to come up with a critical quality attribute, and against all this critical quality attribute you need to compare your criterias, your drug. At each and every stage you need to compare your product, and you have to see what is the quality. So this quality has to be designed into each and every stage, and hence it is called quality by design. That is in nutshell about quality by design. I hope I was able to answer your question. That was a really good question. Apart from that, if anyone else has any question, please unmute yourself and feel free to ask. All of you, if you have any further questions, you can use the chat session also. If you feel you're not able to uh, speak due to any circumstances, you can at least put it in the chat session. Please remember, there is no silly question, small question, wrong question. A question is always a question. Most importantly, you have to ask a question, right? So please feel free to ask questions. Please use the chat session or unmute yourself and ask. See, apart from quality by design, we'll be also talking about risk management. So, risk assessment, risk management, and risk at mitigation. So, this is also one of the important topics that we'll be touching. And with respect to today's industry, that is really important. For example, there is a certain amount of risk that we all take in today's life, right? For example, you get on the road, you know that yes, if I don't drive properly, or others are not driving properly, I will get they will hit me, I'll get into accident. Similarly, when you're producing a drug, there is always a chance that you won't be able to produce 100% quality, right? It will be sometimes 99.9 or 99.99. So 0.1%, 0.01% is something that you won't be able to achieve. But this factor that you are not taking into consideration shouldn't affect the life of any patient, shouldn't affect adversely any patient, right? So understanding that risk, how you are going to understand if it is really impacting the patient is really important. So that is one of the important topics that we'll be also covering. So risk assessment is also really very important.
Can you please brief a bit on design of experiments,
Right.
execution and design of
Right. Design of experiment, DOE, is something, one of the great good concepts that we'll be touching when it comes to quality by design concept. So this is another allied concept. So quality design of experiments. So this is actually a part of the analytical part of quality testing that basically the quality control team talks about. So here it is basically creation of a design space which is called as MODR, right? So here you create a MODR, and here we try to create a upper limit and a lower limit. And see, you cannot test the drug at all conditions at all the time, right? So what we do is we create a design space, right? And when a design space is created, right, so the design space is actually called MODR, method operable design region. So in this design region, if your results are falling, it means it will not adversely affect the outcome of the result, right? For example, let me put it to you in a very simple way. For example, you are making a sweet dish, for example, let's say gulab jamun. Okay, so if you are adding too much of sugar, it will not impact the taste of the sweet much, to some extent, right? So instead of adding half kg, if you are adding 750 grams, it will not impact. So but if you add 1 kg, then it becomes too much sweet such that people cannot eat it. So MODR or design space is creation of that space, right? So this is something what the design of experiments will talk about. So there are many softwares which are right now which helps in creation of this MODR. We have the design expert, we have other statistical tools. So we will be talking about most of them, of course, in our quality by design. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate the questions you're asking. These are definitely what we are dealing in today's life in the pharmaceutical industry. And people, I'm really happy that you know these concepts or at least these terminologies, because some 12, 13 years back when I started my career, my seniors having 7, 8 years of experience also did know about this concept, right? So but I'm happy the awareness in today's generation of pharmaceutical professionals or wannabe pharmaceutical production professionals, that is students, is really high. So I really appreciate if you really want to me to cover any of these topics in particular, or you can always put in the chat session. The course is really flexible, right? So we can always, talk about these concepts, even if it is really unrelated also. I can spend at least 15 minutes on it. That assurance I can give you. Any further questions, please use the chat session. Right. So if you do not have any further questions, we will like to, we can conclude today's session. What I can assure you is that I am a person whose teaching methods will be really different from the conventional ones. We will be having a interactive sessions where I'll be, using the online platform. I'll be posting few questions that will be really helpful in your interview sessions, right? End of the day, we are reading all these concepts to secure a job. So I will be posting questions in between sessions, which will be really helpful for your interview purpose. So another important aspect is the career management and career guidance. Since I have covered many aspects in the pharmaceutical industries with respect to production and quality assurance, I will be able to guide all the students in rediscovering themselves about what are the departments they think they can succeed, what are their interests, where there is money, where there is comfort or a work life balance. So based upon your requirement, I can tailor the answers. I can explain you what are the job responsibilities. It is up to you how you interact with me and understand what where you want to be in your future, such that you don't get into wrong department, and you later, after like 3 4 years of getting into that department, you start feeling that, okay, I've selected a wrong department, this is not what I should be doing, I'm not interested into it, right? So that career discussion session would be really important, where I'll be talking about my journey into the pharmaceutical sector. I'll be talking my experiences, my colleagues' experiences. This will help you in deciding where you want to be, right? So in today's pharma industry, we are seeing that a lot of preference is given to women, sometimes to other communities, and preference or need is also there for men in certain sectors. So if you are a woman and you're getting into wrong department, then there are issues that you have to face with, like in production it works around the clock. So if you're into a wrong department, if you're a women employee, you have to work late night. So sometimes in industries, security of the women is something really which is an issue, right? Because most of the industries are placed outskirts of the city. So that is what I'll be talking about. So you will come to know where you should get into, where you shouldn't get into, right? So if you feel this course is somewhat useful to you, please get in touch with Learn to Upgrade and we can take this course further. So I hope to see you in the next course, where we'll be discussing more about each and every topic. With that, I will end today's session. I thank each and every one of you who have joined today. Uh, Keep learning and please keep upgrading yourself. क्योंकि see, if you need to succeed in life, you need to keep learning, you need to keep upgrading. Thank you everyone. With this, I am ending the session for all.